You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go. Episode 1092 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. It is day 2 of the Commanders' 2025 mandatory minicamp. This off a day 1 that, as expected, did not include receiver Terry McLaurin. He was a no-show, as he and the team are in the midst of contract extension talks. You know, this whole Terry McLaurin thing has become kind of funny with those of us in the media because pretty much everyone agrees that a contract extension is going to get done this offseason. Pretty much everyone agrees that him no-showing the offseason program isn't that big of a deal, but pretty much everyone is talking and writing about the McLaurin thing a lot, in large part because he is one of the biggest stars on the team, and of course there's no guarantee that a contract extension will get done this offseason. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Next segment, reaction to and analysis of Terry McLaurin no-showing the Commanders' mandatory minicamp, including key comments from head coach Dan Quinn. We'll also hit on the team's other two notable absentees from OTA practices, left tackle Laremy Tunsil and cornerback Marshon Lattimore being in attendance on Tuesday. And then the following segment, more from the Commanders' mandatory minicamp, including discussion of running back Brian Robinson Jr. and guard Brandon Coleman. Each guy had some interesting things to say during his post-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon. Will this coming season be Robinson's final season with the Commanders? He's set to be an unrestricted free agent next offseason. By the way, more culture talk with the Commanders on Tuesday afternoon. Punter Tress Way. He did a post-practice press conference during which we had this back and forth between 7 News DC sports director Scott Abraham and Way.
Usually there's plenty of turnover with coaching staffs from year to year, but that's not the case here. The continuity of year 1 to year 2 with the same coaching staff, how important is it that, a lot of the players are back, but also the coaching staff remains intact?
Yeah, I as a player, it's not a huge surprise, with Mr. Harris and the ownership group, AP and DQ, how they treat everybody, how intentional everything is, the expectations and the competitiveness. I mean, if you're a competitive dude, it's no wonder why you would just want to stay here and come back here. So it's a huge breath of fresh air, and it also adds a little bit of that, wow, I'm gonna go for a big word, familiarity to the whole thing.
I can't say that, but you can.
I went to Oklahoma. I took a long shot there, but it was. I think that's a sweet breath of fresh air. Coming back, you want to. You want to come out and win as many games as possible, building off of last season, things like that. But when you have that, that's a huge plus. Yeah.
Tress Way, a member of the team since being claimed off waivers from the Chicago Bears in August 2014. No player on the team appreciates the team's improved culture more than Tress Way does. I mean, think about everything this guy has seen and experienced as a member of this team over the last 11 years. Also on the show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles, who this week are in action against two of the top teams in the majors. The Nats, they on Tuesday night suffered really a gut-wrenching loss, a 5-4 10-inning loss at the National League leading New York Mets in a game in which the Nats blew a 4-2 8th-inning lead. The Nats bullpen struck again. Also, the Nats made multiple bat outs on the base paths. The O's, they on Tuesday afternoon and evening announced a flurry of roster moves that included the reinstatements of two key players in infielder Jordan Westburg and outfielder Cedric Mullins from the 10-day injured list, but the O's then suffered a 5-3 loss to the Major League leading Detroit Tigers at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Tuesday evening. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback regarding something that we talked about on last Thursday's show, episode 1088, the toughness displayed by Commander safety Quan Martin, who played much of last season with two separated shoulders, and yet Martin, for last regular season, played on 87.07% of the Commanders' defensive snaps, and he, for last postseason, played on 92.6% of the Commanders' defensive snaps, and he last regular season and postseason played on special teams. From Jay Stavish on X, this is nuts. What a baller. Thank you for that, Jay Stavish. From Jay's Cursed Shoe on X, playing tackle football with dual shoulder injuries is nuts. Thank you for that, Jay's Cursed Shoe. From Commander's Hub on X, how smart is this? Thank you for that, Commander's Hub. That is a good question. If the Commanders' training staff approved Martin playing with two separated shoulders, then presumably he was not at risk of making the injuries worse. From a performance standpoint, though, look, Martin last season did do some good things, but he did not have some great season. Now, how much of the separated shoulders were the reason is hard to say, but you got to think that they did not help. From EC on X, crazy, hope he's healthy this season. Thank you for that, EC. Me too. From Coach Arian on X, when I heard this, I was stunned and then proceeded to have surgery on both. Dude is a straight warrior. Thank you for that, Coach Arian. From District Sports Talk on X, would you say Martin, Bates, and Cosme are the three best Ron Rivera finds? Thank you for that, District Sports Talk. If we're talking best NFL draft picks by Washington over the team's 4 years with Ron Rivera as head coach in charge of player personnel, I also would include safety Cameron Curl in the 7th round of the 2020 NFL Draft and running back Antonio Gibson in the 3rd round of the 2020 NFL Draft. But if we're only focusing on players still on Washington, yeah, 3 good picks as things stand now were right guard Samuel Cosme in the 2nd round of the 2021 NFL Draft, tight end John Bates in the 4th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, and safety Quan Martin in the 2nd round of the 2023 NFL Draft. You also can say running back Brian Robinson Jr. in the 3rd round of the 2022 NFL Draft, but especially in the cases of Martin and Robinson, how they do this coming season could go a long way toward determining how we view them as Washington players. Cosme has established himself as a quality right guard. Bates has established himself as one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. Martin and Robinson have work to do. But you see, the draft picks under Ron Rivera, not all bad.
Growth and development.
That's right, Ron. Growth and development. Up next, we discuss day 1 of the Commanders' 2025 mandatory minicamp.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Yo, it's D-Lo. I'm partnering with Ro. Women, y'all feel that? It's sexy. But if you're stressing about your performance, throws you off. That's why I rock with Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks dissolve under your tongue and hit fast so you're ready when the moment pops off. you feel like a superhero and satisfying your partner. That's key. Row Sparks help you last longer, stay fuller, and keep the whole vibe right. When prescribed, new patients get $15 off their first order. Hit up row.co/backyard and to see if Row Sparks are right for you. That's row.co/backyard and see if Row Sparks are right for you.
Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved. Do not undergo FDA safety effectiveness or manufacturing review. For full safety information, go to row.co/safety-info.
Hey, if you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. The Commanders on Tuesday began their 2025 mandatory minicamp, which is a 3-day minicamp that marks the end of the team's offseason program. After this minicamp comes a break of about a month and a half until the start of training camp. The mandatory minicamp is unlike the rest of the offseason program. Yes, mandatory. Things like the OTA practices are voluntary. The mandatory minicamp is mandatory. An NFL team under the terms of the collective bargaining agreement between the league and the NFL Players Association can fine a player for not attending a mandatory minicamp. There in recent history had been just 3 instances of a Washington player no-showing a mandatory minicamp. Interior defensive lineman Albert Haynesworth in 2010, left tackle Trent Williams in 2019, and receiver Terry McLaurin in 2022. Well, we now have 4 instances because McLaurin on Tuesday was not in attendance at the Commanders' mandatory minicamp as he remains in contract extension talks with the team. McLaurin no-showed the team's 2022 mandatory minicamp due to being in the midst of contract extension negotiations, and he now has no-showed the team's 2025 mandatory minicamp due to being in the midst of contract extension negotiations. You look around the NFL, star players in the midst of contract extension talks no-showing mandatory minicamps is becoming common. See Cincinnati Bengals edge defender Trey Hendrickson, see Pittsburgh Steelers edge defender TJ Watt. There was a time when an NFL player no-showing a mandatory minicamp was seen as him committing this like mortal sin, a la Albert Haynesworth in 2010 or Trent Williams in 2019. These days, an NFL player no-showing a mandatory minicamp is more just part of the negotiating process. Terry McLaurin's absence from 2025 Commanders mandatory minicamp was expected. I continue to believe that the team and McLaurin this offseason will agree on a contract extension. There are too many reasons for a deal to get done and too few reasons for a deal not to get done. But for now, a deal is not done. And so we have just the 4th instance of a Washington player no-showing a mandatory minicamp in recent history. And the reporting from national NFL insiders continues to be that these contract extension talks are not in a good place. Fox Sports NFL insider Jordan Schultz, he had a post on X this past Thursday, June 5th, said that, quote, Terry McLaurin has made it clear to the team that he's frustrated with the lack of progress on a long-term deal, end quote, and that, quote, talks have been minimal, end quote. NFL insider Diana Rossini of The Athletic, she in a post on X on Tuesday morning said that, quote, McLaurin is frustrated with contract negotiations and will not be attending minicamp per source, end quote. As we discussed with Commanders insider Ben Standing of The Athletic on Monday's show, episode 1090, the source for the Jordan Schultz report, just like the source for the Diana Rossini report, likely was McLaurin's agent. And as you may have noticed, the word frustrated was used in each report. It's almost like the same person told Schultz and Rossini the same thing. Imagine that. If in fact it is the case that McLaurin's agent is leaking stuff to national NFL reporters, I don't like the agent doing this, leaking stuff to the media like this, and I don't see how this helps get a deal done. Like, the agent putting it out there that McLaurin is frustrated isn't going to all of a sudden intimidate Commanders general manager Adam Peters into giving McLaurin exactly what the agent is asking for. Am I mad at Terry McLaurin for no-showing the mandatory minicamp? No, I'm not. We're talking about Terry McLaurin, the single most productive, durable, and likable Washington player of the last 10 years. Name me a Washington player over the last decade who has been more productive, more durable, and more likable than Terry McLaurin. You can't. And so if anyone has earned a benefit of the doubt that person is him. We don't know what McLaurin is asking for in these contract extension talks. We don't know what the Commanders are offering in these contract extension talks, so we don't know if either side is being unreasonable. Suffice it to say, the NFL receiver market has exploded in recent years. Terry McLaurin is a top 10, top 15 receiver in the NFL. Yes, this coming season will be his age 30 season, but he's coming off his best season, and he has been durable, and he is a big part of the culture that the Commanders are building, and so he deserves to get paid $30 million per season, maybe more. The 2025 season is set to be the final season of a 3-year contract extension that McLaurin signed on July 5th, 2022. That extension reportedly included just $34.654 million fully guaranteed at signing. This next contract extension, assuming that it gets done, is going to include a lot more than $34.654 million fully guaranteed at signing. Commanders head coach Dan Quinn, he did a pre-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon. The first exchange of that presser was this exchange between Commanders insider Nikki Zavala of the Washington Post and Quinn.
Obviously, Terry not here. How does that affect you guys just in terms of planning these sessions? And is there at all any concern that it could affect the offense as a whole down the road as they really build that rapport together?
Sure. And the good news is lots of rapport has been built. And so those are all the times and, hours and hours upon doing that. Hey, sometimes football and business, they intersect. And this is one of those times. Terry is a fantastic teammate and really puts in the work and spent a lot of time with him already this offseason. So, but let's, the business side of things, Adam and their crew and Terry and his group, they'll let them work through that. But in the meantime, lots of stuff to do. And we try to customize as much as we can, Nikki, who can do what, who's in rehab, who can do some things, who can do everything, who needs to see more during this time of year, and who do we need to see less. And so this is one of those times you're really able to customize the script and the work to do that.
So Dan Quinn right there, using a line that he has used before, quote, sometimes football and business, they intersect, end quote. Yes, they do. That is a nice way of putting things, but I don't think for a second that Terry McLaurin not being in attendance at the mandatory minicamp will hurt the Commanders' offense. Him no showing training camp, maybe. Him no showing the mandatory minicamp, no. We later, during Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon, had this exchange between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Quinn.
I know you prefer to talk about guys who are out there and all that, but I am curious with the Terry situation, is there something you've learned over the years how to deal with these kind of situations and how maybe even things leading up to it to make sure things are okay from...
Yeah, whatever? I think it's why, that we all have, people that can help on that side. So I can have the relationship as the coach and the ball player and the man. And so, just keep a cool head about it and, keep communication up, which, Terry and I certainly do. So I think the main thing, expect the expected. Sometimes the business and football can get contentious and difficult, but it never has to be with the people that are inside the locker room and doing that. And so I've learned that, through the years, and easy advice to follow.
Yes, it is. And then there was one other Terry McLaurin exchange during Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon. Here you go.
Coach, hi. If I could just ask you one more thing about Terry. Obviously, we know what he's done on the field in terms of numbers. You touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but in terms of his intangibles, especially for the rest of the wide receiver room, what do you think that he has brought to that particular wideout room?
Well, for a long time, there's really, really high standards, of what a professional can be. I can think back to one of the things he was working on last training camp, and I remember standing with Adam. He was working on low catches, so they were like either stationary or running catches that were below the knee, and it's like that type of specific throws after practice that were down towards his feet. That's a pro's pro, where he was finding the smallest of detail to get better at, not the catch that's right here. And he was already exceptional at tracking the deep ball and looking over his shoulder. So I love when people are finding a specific thing. I want to work on that thing to get better at it. I think Terry, that was like a clear demonstration of that. It may sound like a small thing, but that's really, like finding the edge to say, what can I, work on?
And that answer from Dan Quinn right there is a big part of why you don't freak out over Terry McLaurin no-showing this mandatory minicamp. He is the ultimate pro. He very much deserves a benefit of the doubt. He, to me, is Washington's best receiver since the days of the posse, since the days of Art Monk, Gary Clark, and Ricky Sanders. You think about Washington's best receiver since the posse. You have Henry Ellard, you have Santana Moss, you have Pierre Garçon, you have Deshaun Jackson, but I would put Terry McLaurin ahead of all of those guys in terms of production for Washington. And all of these guys were great for Washington, but if you're forcing me to name the best receiver for the team since the posse, my answer is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin was one of 3 notable absentees from the Commanders' OTA practices from the previous 2 weeks. So the other 2 notable absentees were left tackle Laremy Tunsil and cornerback Marshon Lattimore. Both of them were in attendance at Tuesday afternoon's mandatory minicamp practice, as was expected. On Tuesday afternoon, had this exchange between John Keim and Dan Quinn.
Laremy and Marshon are here this week.
Correct.
What are you expecting to see from them, especially with Marshon coming off like the hamstring stuff and all that?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, a little bit customized, John, who will do what, how much we'll get. So, and it'll kind of depend on the day as well, what we want to feature and where we're at. But, yeah, they're both doing good and pumped they're here and getting rolling with us. So they're really I've enjoyed, like spending time with them here. Like for Marshon, when it's traded, it's in season, it's already intense. And so it's in a different atmosphere. You get to have some good conversations. And same with Laremy from the trade. They get him here. I got a chance to meet his family, when he arrived here. And so not every time you get to do that. So, I took that time to spend time with, his son and his family. Like that was a good deal for me to get a chance to spend time with him. I got to know his why maybe before he even got here and got into the locker room.
And with Marshon Lattimore, a big question with him is where he is at from a health standpoint of missing so much time last season due to a hamstring injury. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Ben Standig and Dan Quinn.
Dan, this may be in line with your customization for the workout for these guys. Is Marshon a full participant this week?
He'll get quite a bit, but I'll see where it goes after today, and do we need to see how much tomorrow? But, yeah, I would say full participant going into it. What does that mean for everybody? A little bit different, Ben, but, yeah, there's no restrictions going in.
All right, so good news there. Marshon Lattimore, no restrictions going into this mandatory minicamp. Well, Terry McLaurin, during his time with Washington, has made a difference, just like the NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, continues to make a difference. So just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the NACE Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace, he is a big Commanders fan. He is a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. Lead attorney Chris Nace is an experienced trial attorney who is not afraid to take cases to trials, and that's because the Nace Law Group wins trials. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. More now on the Commanders, off them on Tuesday, beginning their 3-day mandatory minicamp. What are the goals of the mandatory minicamp? Here was Commanders head coach Dan Quinn during his pre-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon.
Well, number one, like always, like the health of the team. I love seeing the communication on all 3 phases, because if we can get that part right, I know the contact and those things will take place, but you have to have the communication down at a really, really strong level. And so I want to hear it. I want to feel that all the way through in all three phases, knowing that's kind of giving you information as the teacher that the student knows it. Oftentimes, we've all been in classroom where there was good teaching that went on, but we don't know if there was good learning. You know, those lecture halls that we were like for a long time, and then, okay, I don't know, I wrote some things down, I might have missed a half hour there somewhere. Like, when the communication happens on the field, you get feedback as a coach. This is happening. He understands that there's a good communication, so that's what I like to listen for.
Well, a few notes on Tuesday afternoon's mandatory minicamp practice. Linebacker Bobby Wagner was not in attendance, although that was an excused absence. But technically speaking, receiver Terry McLaurin's absence was not the only absence, so Wagner was absent as well. Former Dallas Cowboys head coach and current NBC, NFL, and college football analyst Jason Garrett was in attendance. This is a guest of Dan Quinn. Two standouts during the practice were receiver Luke McCaffrey and running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. But as we know, you cannot go crazy over who stands out during these offseason practices. It was 2 years ago around this time that cornerback Emmanuel Forbes Jr. was said to be standing out during Commanders offseason practices. How did that work out? I mentioned Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. The Commanders' RB1, Brian Robinson Jr., he did a post-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon. Big upcoming season for Robinson, a contract season. This coming season is the fourth and final season of his rookie contract, off being taken by the team in the third round of the 2022 NFL Draft out of the University of Alabama. Robinson is due to be an unrestricted free agent next offseason. Robinson in the 2024 regular season, 14 games, 187 carries for 799 yards and 8 touchdowns, 20 receptions for 159 yards and no touchdowns on 25 targets. He had a so-so season, but something that was really telling to me was his rushing success rate. Rushing success rate is a really good stat to look at for running backs. It's better than yards per carry. Rushing success rate is the percentage of a player's successful carries, with success defined as a first down carry that gains at least 40% of the needed yards for a first down or a touchdown, a second down carry that gains at least 60% of the needed yards for a first down or a touchdown, and a third or fourth down carry that gains 100% of the needed yards for a first down or a touchdown. Robinson for the 2024 regular season was number 27 out of 44 qualified players in the NFL in rushing success rate, 48.7. By the way, number one was Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels, 62.8. But not enough of Robinson's carries last season were successful carries. However, in fairness to Robinson, the team seems to believe in him as its RB1 of the Commanders' rushing offense in terms of running backs as last season went on was not good. But the Commanders' actions this offseason do tell us that the team seemingly puts the struggles of the rushing offense in terms of running backs as last season went on more on the offensive line than on Brian Robinson, because the team this offseason has done far more with the offensive line than the team has done with its running back group. Here was Brian Robinson during his post-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon, and then you hear multiple follow-up exchanges between 7 News DC sports director Scott Abraham and Robinson.
I need to take my level of focus up, a notch or two. Definitely it's a big year, not only for me, but for a lot of guys around here too. So, definitely want to take the focus level up, and just stay focused, and get ready for a long season ahead of us. So, step by step, just attack the process and, be ready for everything that comes.
You mentioned it being a big year. Obviously, this is the final year of your rookie contract. I'm sure you love it here. How important is it to kind of put some good tape out there, be you and just kind of grow and evolve as a player here?
I mean, that's been the goal since I stepped foot on this campus. It's just to prove, who I am, to not only just, the program, but to myself. And, biggest year to do that, just to continue to show, who I am and, what I'm about. And, I'm excited to, be able to, continue along here and to show, why I'm here and I'm supposed to be here.
Specifically, what have you been kind of focused on, working on wise, technique, pass pro? What are you kind of, honing in on over these last couple of months?
Really just staying sharp, everything. I never get comfortable with nothing. Like even the skill sets that I'm best at, I never get comfortable with. Constantly working my craft, day in and day out. And the biggest thing for me is just being available. Just being on the field. I think when I'm healthy and I'm well, I'm held when I'm well for sure. And the biggest thing for me is just being available, being out there on the field where I can continue to produce, and everything as far as the craft. I'm going to stay sharp, continue to work, put in the extra time, extra hours in the building, outside the building, whatever I need to do to just stay sharp.
Well, I mentioned the Commanders this offseason having done far more with the offensive line than the team has done with its running back group. The Commanders trade for left tackle Laremy Tunsil in March, and the Commanders' selection of offensive lineman Josh Connerly Jr. with the number 29 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Those things mean that the man who was the Commanders' starting left tackle as last season went on, Brandon Coleman, is being kicked inside the guard. During Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon, had this exchange between Commanders insider Nikki Zavala of the Washington Post and Quinn.
Brandon Coleman, as you've kind of just moved him around like you're moving around other guys, how has he kind of adapted and adjusted as you've done that? Yeah,
really coming into it, because he had good versatility coming out of TCU, the move inside, he was ready to begin that process early. So it started prior to him even getting to the off-season program in his training, working on different sets to do that. So he's a rare guy because he's got the width and the bulk to play inside, but the athleticism to play outside. But he's really locked in on the techniques that it'll take. And so for the big guys, they don't get to fully express that until the training camp, just by the nature of their positions. But he's done an excellent job of getting the timing and the footwork and the sets in that he can.
So the Commanders took Brandon Coleman in the third round of the 2024 NFL Draft out of TCU. Coleman played for TCU for 4 seasons, 2020 through 2023. He, for TCU, did play both tackle and guard. He primarily played left tackle and left guard. Coleman, in his 2023 senior season, made 11 starts with 7 at left tackle and 4 at left guard. Coleman, in his 2022 junior season, made 15 starts, all at left tackle. Brandon Coleman did a post-practice press conference on Tuesday afternoon. We, during that presser, had these exchanges between Scott Abraham and Coleman.
No longer a rookie, how much more comfortable do you feel from year 1 to year 2?
Pretty good. I mean, you kind of know what's coming. You're expecting a lot of different things. So preparation for these OTAs and this minicamp was pretty cool. Like, I know what I need. I know what I got to kind of work in, where I got to get better at to be able to perform out here.
What is the plan for you? Obviously, you played tackle last year. Do you feel like you're going to kick inside the guard? What are you more comfortable with? What do you want?
Yeah, I mean, right now I've been working a lot of guard. To be honest, I don't really care where I play. Wherever they need me at is where I work into, and show that I can play that position. So like I said, right now I'm inside, and I'm learning to get comfortable there, having those tackles. Obviously, playing tackle helps me a lot to understand different perspectives. Understand the game a lot better.
Were you surprised they drafted Connerly?
No, I mean, I really don't pay that much. I don't put that much into it. Obviously, I'm always excited to add a piece like that. Someone that is that athletic, I was excited just because it's always good to have someone else in the room who's that athletic, can play. He's obviously really smart, done a great job so far, and I'm just excited to see what he does during training camp.
Well, remember this about Brandon Coleman, very athletic. Coleman, in his pre-draft process, registered a relative athletic score per Kentley Platte, an RAS of 9.98. That is on a scale of 0 to 10. 9.98. That ranked number 4 out of 1,450 guard prospects from 1987 through 2024. If Coleman takes to guard, the Commanders will have one of the most athletic guards in the NFL. And then how about the overall nature of the mandatory minicamp in the current NFL? We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Commanders insider Ben Standig of The Athletic and Dan Quinn.
The idea of these off-season programs has changed over time. You get less work. What for you has maybe changed? I don't know if it's from your Atlanta days or just other times of what this week actually means and what the ultimate goal kind of is out of this week.
Yeah, and it's a lot different, and I think that's the change is good. Obviously we're doing it to help the players and go to it for as some of you may remember, way back the mandatory camp came right after the draft. 2 practices, 1. So there was 5 practices in a weekend. I don't know what load management or those kind of things would say about that nowadays, but it probably wouldn't be too favorable. But I do know that you want to isolate the skills, Ben, and see where we're at. And then the rookies have been here about 1 month. And so for them and for the players that are going into year 2, what's the learning like? Have you applied, what we've learned in this time together so you can really let it go once you get, into training camp. And so there'll be a natural break that'll come up, 2 or 3 days from now. And there's almost like a 40 days before you get to training camp and having a real plan for what that looks like. But in this space, I always like to see the newest players and their acclimation, where they're at. And it kind of gives you a little test, a little barometer where they're at mentally. And, regarding the playbook and that, to do the whole factors, physically, mentally, emotionally, all the things you have to pour into it. But it's a good, I would say, just a good test. Where are you exactly with the knowledge of it all?
All right. And speaking of knowledge, Nova Fireplace and Stove, it has the knowledge to do great work for you. As we're now into June, know that if you live in Northern Virginia, you can count on Nova Fireplace and Stove for whatever your outdoor living needs may be. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers custom outdoor fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, grills, fire pits, and patio heaters. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers free in-home estimates for Northern Virginia residents for outdoor kitchens and gas lines. If you live in Northern Virginia and want to increase the look, feel, and value of your home via high-level outdoor living, contact Nova Fireplace and Stove, which is offering a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Call 571-513-3803 or visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. This includes cleaning, safety inspection, tune-up, and diagnostic work. Also, Nova Fireplace and Stove offers generators, car charging stations, patio pavers, and water heater replacement/repair. Nova Fireplace and Stove has been around for 2+ decades and is outstanding. It is family-owned. It is a 5-star dealer. It is expanding its showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia to include a new outdoor showroom section. Call 571-513-3803. Asked to speak to Stuart Moore. He's the general manager. He's a big Commanders fan. He's a loyal listener of this podcast. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com to check out customer reviews. 571-513-3803 or NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. Well, the Nationals on Tuesday night suffered maybe their most painful loss of this season so far, a 5-4 10-inning loss at the National League leading New York Mets in Game 1 of a 3-game series. This was a game in which the Nats blew a 4-2 8th-inning lead. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 30-36. The Mets in this regular season now are a National League best 43-24. The Nats bullpen blew this game. The bullpen lately has been better. But I still would not call this bullpen good. And the bullpen blew this game on Tuesday night. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 3 runs, 2 earned in 3 innings. Brad Lord tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th, but Jose A. Ferrer officially allowed 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He, in the bottom of the 8th, faced 4 batters, but got just 2 outs. He struck out each of the first 2 Mets batters of the inning, but Ferrer then issued a 2-out walk of Starling Marte, despite having had him down in the count at 1.02, and Ferrer then gave up a 2-out RBI double by ex-Nat Juan Soto to right field on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Nats lead to 4-3. The double came on a liner that got past right fielder Robert Hassel III, who failed in his attempt at an awkward falling forward backhanded catch. So another instance of bad defense by the Nats, but make no mistake, Jose A. Ferrer had Marte down 0-2, ended up walking him, then had Soto down 0-2, ended up giving up an RBI double. Got to put batters away when you have them down 0-2. Ferrer instead gave up the walk and then the RBI double. Tunsil. Then came Nats manager Davey Martinez going to his closer, Kyle Finnegan, for a 4-out save. Finnegan officially tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings, but he gave up the hit that scored the tying run. Finnegan came into the game, bottom of the 8th, runner on second, 2 outs, Nats up 4-3. But Finnegan, to the first batter he faced, gave up a game-tying 2-out RBI single by Pete Alonso off the left field wall to tie the game at 4, though Alonso was thrown out in his attempt to advance to second base as he overslid the base. A left fielder, James Wood, got the outfield assist, and Finnegan did then toss a perfect bottom of the 9th to preserve a 4-all tie. But Cole Henry, he threw one pitch, and the result was a walk-off single by Jeff McNeil to right field in the bottom of the 10th for a 5-4 Nats loss. Henry threw one pitch and got the loss. Here was Davey Martinez during his postgame session with reporters on Tuesday night on the work of his bullpen, starting with what happened with Jose A. Ferrer, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
0-2 to 4-2 to Marte. I mean, that's everything up. He tried to throw a slider. He just left it up, and, Juan does damage when the ball's up. So, he put a good wood on the ball.
What did you see on the play of Haas? I know he struggled with some of those plays coming in on balls.
It hooked on him really bad. I mean, I just saw it. It went over his glove, so it was hard hit, so it just kind of hooked on him at the last minute, but like I said, in those situations, you get 2 outs like that and you're 0-2, you got to put that guy away.
What did you see from that when he got hit 0-2? Was there lack of focus? What did you see from his pitches and what allowed him to get back?
I think he was just trying to be too fine. His stuff was good. I think he hit 100 today. So I mean, just go right after the guy. He's been throwing the ball really well. So all those guys have. We got McKenzie through the 6th. Lord comes in, threw the ball really well. Ferrer came in and was throwing really well. And Finnegan, who's been throwing the ball well too, But hey, those guys got a good hitting team. I mean, you can't let them stay in the game or creep back in. They're gonna hurt you. So we had some opportunities early, score some more runs. We left some guys on base. So hey, but the boys played well. They hung in there. McKenzie was lights out.
Yes, he was. The shame of this game was not only that the Nats failed to close out a win at one of the best teams in the majors in the Mets, but that the Nats wasted another terrific start by their ace, Mackenzie Gore. Gore allowed 2 runs in 6 innings with 6 strikeouts versus no walks. He gave up 5 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 3 singles. Now, the homer was interesting. Gore, in the bottom of the 3rd, gave up a 2-out opposite field solo homer by Juan Soto to left center field to cut the Nats' lead to 3-2, and Soto looked Gore's way and appeared to speak to Gore as Soto rounded the bases. So some competitiveness between Mackenzie Gore and Juan Soto. That was fun. But Gore, again, was really good. Your updated stats for Mackenzie Gore in this regular season: 14 starts, ERA of 2.88, whip of 1.12, 114 strikeouts, ranking number 1 in the majors, a strikeouts per 9 innings of 12.61, ranking number 1 among all qualified pitchers in the majors. Here was Gore during his postgame session with reporters on Tuesday night, and you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
Made pitches when we needed to. I don't think I was great, but I thought we made pitches when we needed to, and we did a nice job.
You retired, I think, 10 of your last 11. What do you think was working for you at the end to kind of settle into a rhythm there?
Yeah, just understand the hitters and, where you can attack them. And when we needed to, we went and got those spots. And yeah.
You're going to say you didn't feel like this was your best. What do you feel like you could have done better heading into your next outing, or what do you feel like you can improve there?
Yeah, I just think, I think stuff-wise it probably wasn't as good as we've been. There's certain counts that we didn't get into at times. But I just didn't think we necessarily sequenced all 4 as good as we have, but it was not bad by any means. I just didn't think it was as good as we've done so far.
How good was it to see Abrams come through like that today?
Yeah, it was good. It was great to see, especially have a couple weeks tough stretch, and that was great to see him go 3 or 4 hits tonight, and that was huge.
How tough of the losses for you guys, and what can you guys kind of learn from this and take into tomorrow moving forward?
Yeah, this one's tough. This one stings, but I understand, like you said, we have a game tomorrow, and just flush this one and get ready to win a game tomorrow.
Looked like Juan was looking at you after the home run. Did you notice that? Was there any exchange with you guys?
We always go back and forth. That's not like nothing bad or anything. And he got me. He'd been away, so he got me, and he earned it. So
all good fun.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Was it we've been traded for each other type of thing?
I don't know. It's just some tough at bats, and he's super competitive, which is why people like him. Why you like watch him play. And I threw a bad slider, and he hit it out. So.
All right, good answer from Mackenzie Gore regarding the home run trot by Juan Soto. The Nats offense in this 5-4 10-inning loss at the Mets on Tuesday night was pretty good. The Nats totaled 4 runs, 8 hits, and 4 walks, went 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. The 8 hits were 2 home runs, 3 doubles, and 3 singles. A much-needed good game for C.J. Abrams, who really had been struggling lately. Abrams, as the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 3 for 4 with a solo homer, an RBI double, and another double. Abrams, in a Nats 1-run second, had a 2-out RBI double down the right field line and off the sidewall for a 3-0 Nats lead, although on the play was Jose Tena being thrown out by a mile at home on a bad send by Nats third base coach Ricky Gutierrez, especially considering that James Wood was up next. But Abrams, in a Nats 1-run fifth, had a went-out first pitch opposite field solo homer to left center field for a 4-2 Nats lead. A 3 extra base hit game for C.J. Abrams. Here was Davey Martinez during his post-game session with reporters on Tuesday night on Abrams.
That was awesome. I mean, that's who he is. That's what he can do. He did a much better job of not chasing today, staying in the middle of the field. Big home run to left field, but that's who he is. We got to keep him there now. That's the big thing, is that just keep him in the middle of the field. When he does that, man, he really hits the ball hard.
All right. The Nats' other homer in this game was by Nathaniel Lowe. He is the Nats' starting first baseman and number 3 batter. Went 1 for 5 with a 2-run homer. Lowe in a Nats 2-run first had a 1-out 2-run homer to right field for a 2-0 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 415 feet per StatCast. I've mentioned James Wood. He is the Nats' starting left fielder and number 2 batter. Went 1 for 4 with a single and a walk. He had the outfield assist, but he also got picked off. Wood in the top of the 5th drew a 1-out walk despite having been down in the count at 1.12. But he then got picked off at first base for the 3rd out. So Jose Tena being thrown out at home by a mile and James Wood getting picked off at first base. 2 things that really stick with you in a 1-run loss like this loss. Also, Andres Chaparro, he in the top of the 8th had a pinch 1-out double to deep right center field. Chaparro is back. The Nats on Sunday night announced having optioned infielder/outfielder Nasim Nunez to AAA Rochester, and the Nats on Tuesday morning announced having recalled first baseman Andres Chaparro from AAA Rochester. Chaparro was on the 10-day injured list from March 26th, retroactive to March 24th to May 28th due to an oblique strain. He can hit, so hopefully he can help to provide a jolt to this Nats offense. Game 2 for the Nats at the Mets. Wednesday night at 7:10, Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bluewire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/bluewire, spelled BABBEL.com/bluewire. Babbel.com/bluewire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Well, the baseball gods give it, and the baseball gods take it away. The Orioles on Tuesday got 2 key players back from the 10-day injured list, but also put a key player on the 10-day injured list, and the Ozen got ripped by the best team in MLB. Tuesday evening, a 5-3 loss to the Major League leading Detroit Tigers at Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The Ozen have lost 3 of their last 4 games off a 6-game winning streak, and now in MLB's 2025 regular season are 26-39. The Tigers in this regular season now are a Major League best 44-24. The Tigers on Tuesday evening went with a bullpen game, but the O's in this game totaled just 3 runs, just 6 hits, and just 1 walk. Went 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position. The 6 hits were a home run, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. But back for the O's were Jordan Westburg and Cedric Mullins. So the O's on Tuesday afternoon announced having reinstated infielder Jordan Westburg from the 10-day injured list. He had been on that since April 28th, retroactive to April 27th due to a left hamstring strain. The corresponding roster move to the O's reinstating Westburg from the 10-day IL was them designating infielder Emmanuel Rivera for assignment. And Westburg on Tuesday evening homered. He is the Orioles starting third baseman and number 6 batter, went 1 for 3 with a solo homer and a hit by pitch. Westburg in an Orioles 1-run ninth had a leadoff homer to left field to cut the Orioles deficit to 5-3. Also, the O's on Tuesday afternoon announced having reinstated outfielder Cedric Mullins from the 10-day injured list. He had been on that since May 30th, retroactive to May 29th due to a right hamstring strain. The corresponding roster move to the O's reinstating Mullins from the 10-day IL was them optioning outfielder Heston Kjerstad to AAA Norfolk. Mullins on Tuesday evening as the Orioles starting DH and number 9 batter went 0 for 4. But good to have Westburg and Mullins back. You know, the O's this past Friday afternoon announced having reinstated outfielder Ramon Laureano from the 10-day injured list. The O's on June 2nd announced having reinstated outfielder Colton Cowser from the 60-day injured list. So the injury-ravaged O's are getting healthier. It's very good to see this. But the O's on Tuesday evening announced having put a player on the 10-day injured list. They announced having placed infielder/outfielder Jorge Mateo on the 10-day IL, retroactive to June 7th. This due to left elbow inflammation. So again, the baseball gods give it, and the baseball gods take it away. I did want to note this about Heston Kjerstad. It is disturbing how poorly things are going for him. The O's took Kjerstad with the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 MLB draft out of the University of Arkansas. He in 314 Major League plate appearances over the last 3 regular seasons, 2023 through 2025, has an OPS of just 649, and his defense has been really bad. Also for the O's on Tuesday evening, Jackson Holliday, he is the Orioles starting second baseman and number 1 batter, went 2 for 4 with a double, a single, and a stolen base. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI single. Henderson for this regular season is number 2 among all qualified Orioles players in OPS, 771. Holliday is number 3, 758. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 5-3 loss to the Tigers on Tuesday evening was Cade Povich. He struggled again. He allowed 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 9 hits, which were a home run, 2 triples, 2 doubles, and 4 singles. He did have 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk, and he did throw a lot of strikes. 98 pitches, 65 strikes, just 33 balls. Cade Povich now for this regular season, 12 starts, ERA of 5.46, whip of 1.52. Those numbers are terrible, but he has a strikeouts per 9 innings of 9.44. He's generating strikeouts, which is great. He's just not preventing runs. Povich is a young starting pitcher trying to find his way. He was coming off a good outing. Povich in the Orioles, a 3-2 win at the Seattle Mariners late night last Wednesday night, June 4th. 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings, 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. Here was Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino during his postgame press conference on Tuesday night on Cade Povich, and then you hear a follow-up exchange with O's insider Jacob Calvin-Meyer of the Baltimore Sun.
Yeah, I feel like consistency right now, right? Like I feel like you see him in Seattle and how he handled Seattle, which is a lineup that was swinging the bat really good, you know, and it helps you dream on him a little bit, and you feel good about him going into it. And you know, you see the 2 quick outs, 3 of the 5 innings against a pretty tough lineup, and you feel good about him. He just kind of couldn't slow down the damage once it started. It happened really fast tonight, and that was probably the story of the game.
That's sort of been a theme for him, like 3rd time through the order.
Sure.
Has been difficult for him. That's obviously something that a lot of pitchers deal with. Is there anything that you think needs to happen adjustment-wise or pitch calling-wise when he gets 3rd time through the order so that lineups aren't really attacking him like that?
You know, my guess is probably just experience at this point. It's hard for me to know the exact specifics of every individual pitcher, you know, him included. That's probably a better question for our pitching staff. But, you know, I think more than likely just continuing to get thrown out there and continuing to do it. And I think if we do it and he understands and feels our confidence in him, hopefully he gets a little more consistent and has more outings like the Seattle one.
All right, and the Orioles bullpen off a great series in the O's losing 2 out of 3 games at the Athletics over the weekend. It was very good in this 5-3 loss to the Tigers on Tuesday evening. 3 Orioles relievers combined for 4 and a third scoreless innings. Sir Anthony Dominguez tossed 1 and a third perfect innings. Yadier Cadeau tossed a scoreless top of the 7th with 3 swinging strikeouts, and Scott Blewett tossed 2 scoreless innings. Game 2 for the O's against the Tigers at Oriole Park at Camden Yards Wednesday evening at 6:35. Zach Eflin will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday show, episode 1093. We'll provide you with more on the Commanders, as Wednesday is day 2 of their 2025 mandatory minicamp. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are at the National League leading New York Mets Wednesday night at 7:10 in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the Major League best Detroit Tigers Wednesday evening at 6:35 in Game 2 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
Growth and development,